Hello and welcome to Pet Pals, the show that features the animals of Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. My name is Sean Snyder, and with me today is Kira Borders, and today on Kira's lap is Hannah. Hannah is a 8 to 10-year-old domestic short-hair cat. She's a girl, and Hannah has quite a story with her. She was taken to a local veterinary hospital by a Good Samaritan because the person saw Hannah hit by a car. So at the hospital, they obviously gave her an exam, checked her for broken limbs, other traumatic injuries, and what they discovered was she had no broken bones. However, she did have a few broken teeth and she sustained a cut on her lip. So once Hannah was stabilized, she was transported back to animal control because she was considered a stray, and we've cared for her here with antibiotics and other needed medication to get her back on her feet. And now she's ready for the adoption floor, or she is on the adoption floor. So Hannah, being an older cat, is looking for somewhat of a quiet home, but at the same time, she's still fairly active. She has super soft fur. It's almost like rabbit fur. And because she is 8 to 10 years old, she does qualify for our higher discount for age. So her adoption fee is actually $57.50. Being a stray, we don't know much about her. We don't know if she gets along with other cats or other dogs. We always encourage people, if you're bringing a new pet in, take it slow. You should just never throw your new pet into the home and assume everything's going to work out. Especially for cats, it's a good idea to set them up in one room and gradually allow them to explore your house or expand their territory. And that way it'll provide them much more of a comfort level and acclimation to the new home. So once again, this is Hannah. She's available for adoption here at Frederick County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. Our next cat is Sam. Sam has a beautiful shiny black coat, and you can see he has yellow greenish eyes. He is a boy. He's about 1 to 1.5 years old, and we consider him a domestic short-hair cat because of his coat. Sam came to us because his owner could no longer care for him. His owner gave us the reason that they were moving is why they couldn't. That is probably in the top 5 reasons we hear people give their pets up to the shelter. So obviously, you don't know what's going to happen day to day in your life, month to month, but we do consider when you getting a pet, please consider maybe what your future will bring and think about the pets before you maybe adopt, or what you may do with the pets you already have if you would have to move. Sam has lived with a dog, so he'd probably do well with a dog. He's used to a dog. But at the same time, like I said in the previous with Hannah, we encourage you to acclimate slowly to any new pet. He has also lived with a younger child, 5 years old, so he's used to young kids that run around, maybe make loud noises, play with him, so on and so forth. So his previous owner indicated that he is a lap cat. And you can see sitting in Kira's lap, he feels fairly comfortable. He's not struggling to get away. A lot of cats want to explore when they come into a new territory. And our little studio here is new to most cats. They haven't been in this room ever, and most of them do want to explore around, look around. So Sam, he's on the average size for a cat. He's almost 10 pounds. And since he's been here at the shelter, it looks like we have provided him with a distemper vaccination. Standard procedure is we deworm all cats and we provide them with Revolution. It looks like he had a small abrasion on his nose, which we looked at, and it's nothing that needed major medical treatment. We cleaned his ears out, and he's not neutered yet. So part of the adoption process does include neutering him. He'll leave here with a microchip. He'll also leave with his routine vaccinations. The people who adopt him will have a little coupon for a vet visit, a rabies vaccination, and then a Frederick County cat license. If you're interested in Sam, he would love for you to come see him. Currently, he is living in cage 19 here at the shelter. Our next guest is a cat named Thor. Thor is a 5-month-old male. He's a domestic short hair as well, and he's white with brown tabby, as you can see, mostly white. Right now, Thor's probably one of our youngest cats on the adoption floor, and we have people come in every day and say, where are the kittens? And a lot of people don't realize that cats are seasonal breeders here in the Mid-Atlantic because it gets really cold in the winter, and kittens are less likely to survive the harsh winters here. So at this point in time, the shelter is starting to see its first kittens coming in. So what needs to happen now is they need to get old enough to be adopted. So we utilize our foster homes, and then they come back to the shelter. So little Thor here, I had mentioned about Sam being calm and relaxed. You can see on the other end of the spectrum, Thor is one of those cats that would love to get down and run away and explore the shelter and see what's going on. So being young, he's a bit more active. How he came to us was because someone had too many cats. So basically, the previous owner had the parents of Thor, and the mother had a litter of kittens, and they didn't want to keep the extra cats. So what the shelter does is we offer people information. We do not spay or neuter privately owned animals, but we have information where you can have that done at low cost or no cost. So what we want people to do is use us as a resource, and hopefully we can help you make a connection so there won't be another unplanned litter and you're dropping off 5, 6, 7 kittens or 2, 3 puppies. Obviously, our goal is to reduce the number of animals that come into the shelter, and we try and help people do that through one, information, hooking them up with people that can spay neuter their animals at a discount or no cost, and then 2, microchipping pets. Microchipping is part of every animal that leaves the shelter. I should say every cat and dog. It gives the animal control officers the ability to get animals back to you while they're in the field still. It just makes the connection that much more quicker. So Thor, it does look like he lived with other cats, obviously. It says here he lived with his siblings and 5 other adult cats. They categorized him as a lap cat. What I see him as a young cat that would like to explore. So he'd probably be that way in a new home. It also said that he enjoys eating off of a plate. So one thing we have with him is a profile from his previous owner. So we encourage new adopters to look that over. This is Thor, and if you'd like to visit with him, he is here at the shelter ready to be adopted. Our next cat is Freddie. He's a domestic short hair as well. He's 8 months old, and he is a neutered male. Freddie is about 10% of our population, and that was returned to the shelter. I shouldn't say 10% of our population. About 10% of the animals that we adopt out come back to us. So he fits into that category. So someone adopted him, it wasn't what they thought, it didn't work out, and now Freddie finds himself here again looking for a new home. So you may say, well, why did they bring him back? He looks like a nice cat. Freddie, we were told, is too active. So one thing we do is we try and educate people when they're adopting. And you have some people, they've had cats for 30 years, 40 years, and they don't need much education. Whereas you have new cat owners or new dog owners who maybe need a little bit more. Or I think sometimes people have a pet for a long time, and as your pet ages, it gets more mellow, more relaxed. And then they go to younger animals and they need to be reminded that, hey, when animals are young, they have more energy. They want to run around. They want to explore. So the person who turned him in, we obviously tried to match him up with another cat that wasn't so active, a little bit older cat. Everybody wants the cute kitten or the cute puppy, but things come along with young animals that maybe older animals don't have. So it looks like Freddie, when he lived in the home, it looks like they had him for about 2 to 3 weeks, which there is an acclimation period too that animals should go through. It looks like that he wasn't exposed to any other cats or dogs. They didn't have any other pets. And they did comment he was very skittish. And that goes back to, like I said, that, cats need time to settle in. That is something we do here at the shelter. We allow cats to settle in before we put them on the adoption floor. Let's face it, for most cats, they have never lived how we house cats here. So we usually allow them to have some time in the back, get used to our kennel staff, get used to our routine before they're moved to the adoption floor. You can see Freddie's looking all around, checking out his environment. He's not struggling from Kira trying to get away. Well, obviously I say that and he does. but he's looking around. He's very in tune to what's going on in his environment. So Freddie will need a home that will allow him to run around, explore. I'm sure once he gets settled in, he will become more comfortable with his family. And as he gets older, he'll slow down as well. So this guy's name, as I said many times, is Freddie. He's an 8-month-old male, and he's looking for his third home that we're aware of. Our next guest is Dexter, and you can see he is not a cat. He is a rat. Dexter is about a year old, and he's considered a fancy rat. A lot of people don't realize, and I know you've seen rats and other animals before, but a lot of people don't realize we take all domesticated animals. So if it needs the help of a human to survive, we will take it here. One thing we may or may not have had on the show is our fish. Right now we have 2 fish that are available for adoption. But let's talk about Dexter. We were told Dexter was taken out of a bad situation, or I should say Dexter was put online to free to a good home, and someone took him because they felt him and his brother were in a bad situation. So that person kept Dexter and his brother for a week, but decided they couldn't keep him, so they relinquished him to the shelter. So Dexter and his brother were living together, and they were getting into fights. So we did have to separate them. So right now they are separated and individuals. Rats do like companionship. However, you do need to monitor that. If they're single, you need to ensure that they aren't fighting for resources or territory within wherever they're being kept. So that's something we saw. And because there are times animals can't be monitored here 24/7, we chose to separate them so they wouldn't injure each other. Sometimes people say, well, how long do rats live? Average is about 2 to 3 years. They do need handling. They need proper exercise. So just like any other pet, you do need to pay attention to them. The feeling is that sometimes the smaller an animal is, the more it doesn't need as much from you. That's not the case. All animals need interaction. They need exercise. Some rats will run in a wheel, some won't. The balls that they have for small mammals aren't necessarily good. It can kind of be traumatic for them to be trapped in a ball like that. Whereas a wheel, they have the option to get off the wheel or not be on the wheel. So if you're interested in a small mammal, whether it's a rat, a gerbil, a hamster, what we encourage people to do is do your research first before you just end up with one. So many people go out on a whim, they buy one, they adopt one, and they don't really think about what's included with small animal care. So that's another thing we can help people with, is let us be a resource so you know what you're getting into before you adopt. If you're interested in Dexter, you can ask one of our kennel staff to give you a hand getting him out, and you can by all means visit with him. That's it for this segment. After a short break, we'll be back and we'll have 5 more adoptable animals for you to take a look at.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
The most important piece of equipment in your home is your smoke alarm, and it is probably the easiest and cheapest to maintain. Keep your family safe this year with regular smoke alarm checkups. Regularly check the batteries and perform periodic testing. For more information about smoke alarm safety and maintenance, visit the Frederick County Division of Fire and Rescue Services website at frederickcountymd.gov/smoke alarms.
Welcome back, and our first guest of the second segment is a dog named Duke. Duke is 1.5 years old, and he's a male, and he is a pit bull mix. Duke weighs about 43 pounds. And he won't get much bigger as far as taller, but he isn't neutered yet, and part of the adoption process, the adoption fee is neutering him. So he may get a little thicker once he's neutered. His metabolism will likely slow down and he may not stay quite as trim. So Duke was given up by his owner, and what Duke's owner indicated was they've had him his whole life, and they found him as a 5-week-old puppy in North Carolina along the road. So he was abandoned, that's what they had told us. And why they gave him up to the shelter was because they were not able to train him and they couldn't afford to care for him. So training, you know, that's something as a young dog, it's great to get it on board with it earlier, set the rules, set the foundation, and what you have at the end of that journey is a well-behaved dog. Now, Duke's not out of control by any means. We've had much worse dogs here at the shelter, but he is a dog that's young, that needs exercise, and does need someone to set boundaries, limitations, a good foundation for training. And then the other thing is you gotta have the time. So many people are busy nowadays with work and commuting and kids activities that they come home from work and they gotta turn around and go take their kids to sports, and that doesn't leave any time for the dog. So what Duke needs is someone that can commit some time, some training to him. You can see he is very friendly, and he will jump up and give you kisses, and that's desirable in some ways, but in many ways it's not. So obviously along with training comes manner training. His coat is described, it's very unique. It has almost white in the black, and how we described it was black, smoke, and white. So it's very interesting. It's nothing like I've seen before. So he definitely is a dog that will turn heads because of his coloring. Very nice dog. And it looks like he has lived with other dogs. They said beagles, so dogs a little bit smaller than him, a cat, and then he lived with a bird. And when we asked, did he get along with those animals, they did indicate, yeah, he got along with all of those animals. So it looks like he was well socialized. So he doesn't have any problems with other people or other types of animals. He just needs a little bit of training, and that'll go a long way for Duke. If you're interested in Duke, you can stop by and see him here at the shelter. Our next dog is a girl named Foxy. Foxy is 6 years old, and she just celebrated her 6th birthday. Her birthday is on 3/14/2009. She is a Pomeranian mix, and she weighs almost 15 pounds, 14 pounds, 10 ounces. It looks like coming into the shelter, she arrived as a stray, and what happened was we actually tracked down her owner. So, and how we did that was through a microchip. So that's a good reason to have your animal microchip, like I said before. The unfortunate thing that happened was the person decided they didn't want to take her back, and it looks like they owned her whole life. They said 8 years, but she's only 6 years old because we know her birthday. So it looks like that they decided they didn't want to keep her was because she can have a tendency to nip and growl at small kids. So they have younger kids, and they felt maybe another home would be better suited for her. Because what the previous owner told us, we are recommending an adult-only home for her. You can see on Kira's lap, she's doing fine. She's a bit stressed, she's panting, but at the same time, she's not trying to struggle. She's responsive to Kira. Right before we started filming, she actually rolled over and was going to allow Kira to rub her belly, which one of the comments on our behavior assessment is that she likes her belly rubbed. So she's a dog that just needs that special home, and we look for that all the time, and we know it's out there somewhere in Frederick County. So we're not saying she can never be exposed to small kids, but if there's an older family or maybe a retired person that's looking for a nice small dog, this would be a perfect match. Older people can have grandkids that come over. You just need to monitor the interaction they'd have with Foxy. So she is definitely a companion. You can see she likes being on Kira's lap. Another comment on the assessment is she prefers to be carried rather than walk. Not that she won't walk, but she's a dog that has been used to being carried around, sitting on people's laps. If you were to adopt Foxy because of her age, we will incentivize the adoption fee a little bit by taking $20 off. So her adoption fee is $72.50. You can stop by and visit Foxy at the front desk. Just ask to see her. Our next handsome fella is Bandit. Bandit is 11 months old. He is almost a year old, so his birthday is on 5/7/14. So obviously we have a goal, and that's to find him a home before his first birthday. He is a pit bull mix, and it looks like he weighs about 65 pounds. So he's a pretty big boy, and he probably still has some growing to do. Not too much, but he's a larger dog. Bandit being 11 months old, Kira and I were just commenting that he's one of the favorites here. He is actually very well behaved for 11 months old dog. When you take him out for walks, he walks nicely on a leash, and he's a little wound up now because it's a new place, but at the same time, for being only 11 months, he has a good foundation for training. He has a good foundation for activity level. He will make someone a wonderful pet. So, you know, sometimes people say, I don't want to go to the shelter and get a secondhand dog. What you find sometimes are dogs that already have a good basis, and then you can just build on that and continue to make them a great dog. Bandit was given to us by his owner, and it looks like they moved into an apartment. Once again, I commented earlier, I believe with one of the cats, that one of the cats was given up because of moving. Pit bulls even have a harder time because there's a lot of apartment complexes that do not allow pit bulls. So unfortunately, Bandit was out of a home. We try and encourage people that if you know you have to move, maybe try and contact us before it happens, the day of, and maybe we can try and help you rehome your dog without, or give you some ideas, or your cat, before you're at that last minute and you have to find a place for him. Bandit's on our adoption floor. That's where he'll stay until he finds a new home. He hasn't gotten a lot of action, and I think if people just asked to see him outside of his kennel, things would change. At times, people come in, they just look at what's on the shelf. They don't ask to visit outside the kennel. By all means, if you're here to adopt a dog, just don't look at him in the kennel and make your decision. Ask to take them out of the kennel. Have one of our staff people let you visit with it outside where it's not so busy and not so loud. And a lot of times that'll show more of what the dog is like rather than a dog that's jumping up and down, running back and forth, barking. They get excited when they're inside. They see people carrying leashes, and the prospect of them going out excites them. So sometimes they're judged based on their behavior inside the kennel. So it looks like Bandit in his other house did live with another dog, and what we've seen here at the shelter is that he's not reactive to other dogs. We don't necessarily introduce dogs to dogs, but he hasn't been reactive. And then he's lived with an 8-month-year-old and kids that are older than that. You can see Bandit's all right with his belly being rubbed, which is a sign that he's comfortable with Kira, relaxing on his back and just calming down slowly. So this is Bandit. He would love to have a new home for his first birthday, and you can stop in and visit him. Our next guest is Bugatti, who's an American rabbit who is 2 years old, and he is a boy. At this time, Bugatti's not neutered, but part of adopting a rabbit from the shelter is having it spayed or neutered by us. So rabbit adoption fee is $50, and you can't beat the price that we charge if you're getting a rabbit that is spayed or neutered. And spaying and neutering rabbits help with certain behavioral problems. It can also eliminate some cancers that may be caused by the organs that are removed. So in the long run, having your rabbit spayed or neutered is the way to go. So, and we're happy to do that for the people that adopt from us. It looks like he originally came from the pet store that used to be in the Francis Scott Key Mall, and they had him for 2 years, so they got him as a baby bunny. And it looks like they gave him up because of allergies. So a lot of people, it's not that they don't realize it, but they don't consider that rabbits need hay. And when people have grass allergies, they can also have allergies to the hay that rabbits or guinea pigs or any of those small animals may have. So you need to consider that, one, you might be allergic to the rabbit, or two, the hay that it needs. Also, it indicated a child had allergies, and they didn't say if they knew if it was to the rabbit or to the hay, but children develop allergies over time. So that's something, a young kid, you can get a rabbit or another pet and it can be totally fine, and over time they become allergic. So we just encourage people to maybe Obviously, if there's other alternatives to housing the rabbits somewhere else, washing hands, but at the same time, we understand that someone doesn't want to suffer that they can't breathe or get hives and those kinds of things. So Bugatti's on our adoption floor. He is currently living in one of our floor cages. The shelter a few years ago moved some stuff around, and we actually have some really nice habitats for our rabbits that they're on the floor. We try and give them little hide boxes. It makes it so much easier for people to interact with them. One of the things that people want to do with rabbits right away is typically pick them up, which if you're not an experienced rabbit handler, we tell people to just pet them while they're on the floor. Rabbits have very strong back legs, of course, and if you don't know how to handle them correctly, they can very easily break their back. So you want to ensure you know how to handle your rabbit properly, that it's not injuring itself. Speaking of injuries, if you have a rabbit, you do need to have a vet. Rabbit veterinarians are specialized vets, so there are a few in Frederick, and we can obviously give you that list of folks you could visit to take your rabbit to should there be an emergency or just for its annual checkup. So once again, this is Bugatti. He seems to be nice and relaxed in Kira's lap, and he's available in our small animal room. So our last guest today is a rabbit named Sweetie. She is a mini Rex, and she's about 5 months old. It looks like Sweetie came to us with maybe a sibling, a rabbit named Lefty, and at that time when she arrived, she was suspect being pregnant. So we actually have already spayed her. She was not pregnant, but she's already ready to go to find her new home. So, and I want to say she was spayed on April 10th, so it's been a few days since she was spayed. It looks like she was part of an unwanted litter. So obviously rabbits will have more rabbits, and they brought us the offspring of who they couldn't sell or get rid of. So, and that was Sweetie and her sibling. It appears that she's lived outdoors all her life in a hutch or some kind of maybe floor crate. They said that part of the floor was mud, so I'm almost envisioning something that's on the ground. We actually don't adopt rabbits out who are going to be outdoor pets. There's a lot of things that can go bad for rabbits when they solely live outside. Temperature being one of them, extreme heats, extreme colds, predators that are tenacious about getting into hutches, whether they're raccoons or foxes. So, and then just obviously the stress of being out there and somewhat of the isolation. So we have a very good adoption counselor who works with the House Rabbit Society, and she talks to people about rabbits, prepares them for what they're going to need, and just lets them be aware of how much care a rabbit needs. So obviously they owned Sweetie her whole life, her only being 5 months old, and it looks like she has been around other dogs. Or she's been around dogs, I should say. Rabbits live on average between 7 to 10 years, so you do need to be prepared to keep a rabbit for a longer period of time. Folks who already maybe have a rabbit and are looking for a companion for their rabbit, we actually do offer bunny matches where the person I mentioned will come in and try and match a bunny to your bunny, see how that goes, help you work through maybe some problems. So obviously animals can find companionship with each other. If you're interested in Sweetie, she's here at the shelter and she'd love a visit from you. That's this week's show. I'd like to invite everybody to our annual open house. This year it'll be Sunday, May 17th from 11 to 2. We also have a yard sale during our open house, which is from 11 to 2. And our open house offers folks the opportunity to come in and visit with shelter pets. We have all kinds of kids' activities from a moon bounce to face painting. There'll be other local vendors and rescues here. And then we have food and refreshments for people to enjoy. The entire day is free for our visitors. It's a great opportunity to come in and see what your community shelter has to offer. We hope to see you next week, and thanks for watching.